You probably remember that I had this correspondence with Greater Manchester Police. You know how I was assaulted last October, and then I tried to report it to the police, and then I couldn't because I was turned away from the police station, and they lied to me, and they said the police officer is going to come, in an hour to your hotel room. And then they lied again when the police officer didn't come, and they said, oh, he's going to come next morning. And then an hour later, just before midnight, they sent what they called a mental health ambulance. So that was nonsense. So anyway, after this happy little incident that's on YouTube by now, I've been trying for the last 8 months to get my crime report. And I got all sorts of nonsense, but not my crime report. So now it's the end of July, and I have lost my patience. There was also this letter by Inspector Stephen Miskell from Ashton Police Station, with whom I corresponded trying to get my crime report. And he said, I feel that this matter would be best dealt with via telephone conversation, and asked that you let me have a contact telephone number that I can contact you on, or that you contact me on, and then he gave his 2 numbers, landline and mobile. So I thought maybe Inspector Miskell was right. Maybe we need some direct talking, And what I did just before the show is I used the mobile phone number he gave, and I sent Inspector Miskell a text message. And I said, Dear Inspector Miskell, following our correspondence, please watch the live broadcast Techno Crime Fighters Forum starting at 4 p.m. on Dr. Paul Marco's Pinecone Utopia YouTube channel for an important message for you from me and my colleagues from the Joint Investigation Team. We are investigating crimes committed with military technology. You can watch this Techno Crime Fighters Forum episode 18 afterwards too. It contains important national security information that is relevant to the UK. Best wishes, Dr. K. Horton. So I hope, Inspector Miskell, in the meantime, you managed to get online and actually watch the Techno Crime Fighters Forum. May I please introduce myself? I am Dr. Katherine Horton, the person with whom you corresponded. I'm the founder and leader of the Joint Investigation Team looking into military technology. With me are my colleagues, Karen Melton-Stewart. She worked for the NSA for almost 30 years, 20 years of that working specifically in weapons development and proliferation. So she's highly qualified. With me here is also Ramola D. She's an investigative journalist who spent the last 3 years specifically investigating crimes committed with directed energy weapons, military bio and neurotechnology, and she's an expert on Secret Service crime. So she's also extremely highly qualified. The other members of my team who are not here today are Dr. Millicent Black. She is also an expert in military technology, and especially an expert who knows how this technology really feels like, because she has been implanted with, I think, was it 53 bio implants or even more? I think it was 53 illegal bio implants. She has been harassed and tortured by a psychopath who is a decorated soldier from the Air Force in the US. She has been turned into his personal sex slave, personal torture slave, and he has been training up the entire community on how to torture people remotely with microwave weapons and with illegal implants. She also had satellites trained on her and miscellaneous other directed energy weapons applied to her, to the point that now her joints are crippled. She has to use a walker. She needs urgent surgery, and the doctors told her that unless the chips are turned off, they cannot operate on her. And we've been trying now for several months to get the Air Force to have this psychopath shut down. He's also a serial killer who, as it looks like, is responsible for at least a dozen murders in the community, and he keeps on killing. So that's the situation, Inspector Miskell. My other colleagues, Ramola D, she's being mutilated and shot at nonstop in her home. We've also been trying to get the authorities to stop her targeting without any success. Karen Melton-Stewart has been mutilated now for, I think, over a year, or is it even longer, Karen?
It's going on 2 years.
2 years,
yeah,
on orders of what looks like Bill Black Jr. from the NSA. We've also tried to get Admiral Mike Rogers, head of the NSA, to actually stop her targeting without success. And that's the reality. My colleague in Belgium, she's being mutilated on the orders of Jacques Race, head of Belgian intelligence. She has also many bio implants that are totally legal. She actually was implanted when she was pregnant. She was pregnant and she woke up with laser surgery scars all over her body. What many people don't know is she also has eye implants that decreased her sight. She had excellent sight and she used to be a marathon runner. So through these eye implants, the intelligence agencies can see everything she sees. And through her ear implants, which, by the way, I also have, they can hear everything that her and I hear. So that's the reality in Spectre Miskel. And, the directed energy weapons are just a small part of this. I myself, I'm a trained high energy physicist. I used to be a research fellow at St. John's College, Oxford. Now I'm investigating these crimes full-time after I've been illegally blacklisted by MI5, and I've been attacked with directed energy weapons by MI5, by German intelligence, and here non-stop by Swiss intelligence. So that is the reality. And I have just spoken with Swiss police on Monday, and they confirmed that they have no one who is an expert in directed energy weapons and microwave weapons. So I assume that the same applies to you, Inspector Miskel. So I wanted to start this episode today with actually showing you and our other viewers what it looks like when teenagers build directed energy weapons from a microwave that costs about £20 or $30. So if I may, I would like to share my screen, and today I wanted to show a couple of videos that are really quite instructive, and I would like to start off with the very first one. Here, if you can see, this is the microwave from which the weapon will be generated. I will play this video clip, and I would like you to see the different steps and also listen to the happy jingle that's been played. This video has been made by a teenager, and this is the ultimate high energy radio frequency gun, directional microwave blaster, made from a simple microwave. So here we go.
This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture science. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who I did. But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science gets done and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive. I'm not even angry. I'm being so sincere right now. Even though you broke my heart and tore me to pieces.
So I just would like to stop here. First of all, did you notice that the kids who were doing this looked like 18 or something? And I would like you to see that he made this microwave gun, and how is he testing it? He's shooting it at miscellaneous things, a light bulb, now a CD. And look at his shielding. He put a metal pan. It looks literally like what something that you took out of an oven, okay? He put it here. Now, one of the things I would like to say to all the kids who are trying to imitate this, what this does is the microwaves go through or, go around this. In the metal disc, it will be reflected, but everything that goes around will hit this and will be reflected 100%. So what he did with this sort of security mechanism is he is reflecting all the microwaves at himself. So in other words, he's microwaving his own testicles. So please don't do this, kids, okay? This is not the way to do that. So it's clear what he wanted to do. He wanted to prevent the microwaves from going through the wall, which you have to, otherwise you'll kill your neighbors, because the microwaves go through brick and concrete at 50% intensity. But this is really not the way to run an experiment. That's why a microwave is entirely shielded, because if it's not, it will reflect back and you will cook yourself. So let's just watch what happens.
beautiful light, and we're all the data we're releasing.
So what this is, he's using microwaves to ionize the gas inside. And as the gas is traveling through this, this milky glass, it has a coating that converts the emissions into visible light. That's how these things work. And that's what he's setting off, but he's ionizing the gas inside. But my favorite one is when he actually cooks bacon with this thing. This is bacon.
Anyway, this cake is great. It's so delicious and noisy. Look at these little talking like the science food. And I look up there, it makes me glad I love you. I've experiments to learn. There is research to be done on the people who are still alive. And believe me, I am still alive.
So that is what you can do with a microwave gun. You can literally cook meat. It's that simple. And as I said, so microwaves, just like mobile phone frequencies, have the property of passing through brick and concrete at 50%. And this is why, because as you can see, I'm preparing a court case, but I'm being attacked. And this is why I need metal behind me to protect myself. And the situation for the investigators, Inspector Miskell, is that all of us, all the ladies on this, on the joint investigation team, we have to protect our bodies from these shots that are fired into us in our private homes, using the fact that microwaves and therefore also hard shots of pulsed microwaves travel through walls. You know, and I guess we can all confirm that we can actually hear the shots bounce off metal shielding, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And just very briefly, I just wanted to show 2 more videos because there are 2 important things I wanted to make. They are also, again, about directed energy weapons. But look at the other videos that people have made. One of them here, this shows, you know, people, this is the size of a microwave weapon. You know, this is just the size of the funnel. It can get much smaller. And look what it can do. Right? Boom. Okay. And I think here, right? And that's DIY. And here you can see the scale of this weapon. You know, this is using the same principle as the diode of this lamp, you know, the glowing lamp that we saw in the previous video. But, you know, the range of this thing is infinite because the photons, electromagnetic radiation, travels in a straight line and has an infinite range. And the device making it is tiny. It was just this little thing, you know, yeah. So that's why these things are so very dangerous. Then, you know, this guy actually makes, again, another teenager, you know, who makes a laser bazooka. Just here, you can see him, again, teenager, putting this together, cobbling it together, and look at what this guy can do. Yeah. Yes?
That is absolutely horrifying.
It is. And when this guy is, you know, aiming it at miscellaneous devices, he can really take stuff out. Yes? Boom. So you see, Inspector Miskell, this is why it's so bloody important that you learn about these weapons, okay? Because teenagers are putting up DIY instructions on YouTube. And now I want to show you one more thing, because this is, again, another important thing. This is how to make a microwave gun by Keystone Science. Again, another teenager, but I'll stop it in the very first seconds, because listen exactly to what he says.
Now first, let's go over a few things before we get started. Microwaves have a lower energy than light, and so don't be afraid that this project is going to give you cancer or anything like that just from the microwaves.
Hang on. He just said microwaves have a lower energy than visible light, so don't be afraid that this project is going to give you cancer or anything. I am sorry, that is total nonsense. Fair enough, because this kid is barely in school, right? But the point is, and I can explain that very simply. It's true. What he means is the energy of a photon is related to its frequency. The higher the frequency, the higher the energy of an individual photon. That much is true. That much this kid has understood. But when it's about damage, it's about how much energy from that photon is absorbed by a body or by whatever you're shooting at. And the absorption is related sometimes to energy bands, the actual structure of the material. And this is why certain frequencies can be 100% or nearly 100% absorbed, while nearby frequencies are not absorbed at all. Okay? So it's nothing to do with the overall energy of the photon. By the way, if you go to really high energies like gamma rays, high energy gamma rays, they go straight through a high-rise building. At the particle accelerators where we measured them, the accelerator in Hamburg I worked at was 8 floors below ground. CERN, the Atlas detector where I worked, that was, I think, 100 meters below ground. Nevertheless, high-intensity gamma rays went through this entire Earth. When you were standing in between, these gamma rays went through you like butter. They made zero damage because they deposited zero energy, if you were lucky, even though they were high in energy. So this is not how it works. And it is a fact that microwaves are cancer weapons. These are cancer weapons. That's what these people have to understand. Yes, that experiment is going to cause you cancer, you little idiot. Because these are cancer weapons. And the reason why they're so damaging, it is because it depends on the precise frequency that's absorbed. And this is why a microwave operates at, I think, 2.45 gigahertz, because that frequency is absorbed by water molecules. It's to do with the water molecules, okay? And it sets them to resonate, and that is what's causing it to heat, remember? So heat is the actual molecular kinetic energy, and the kinetic energy is passed on. Therefore, that's why a mug of coffee heats up in the microwave. The mug is not never really cold because the water heats it, but the mug could be so that you can still touch it, but the water is already approaching 100 degrees because the water molecules absorb the frequency and the mug does not. Okay, so this is how it works. So when you're talking about damage, it's about the absorption coefficient. So, that's one thing. And again, I can go back, and just like all the others, this kid also shows, I'm not going to, show you the entire thing because he talks stupidly fast. But one of the things he actually says, and that's a very good point, he says that he has, hang on, let's just listen to it again. He says that he has under his clothes aluminum foil. And the reason why he has that is because metal deflects it. And listen carefully to what he says.
Since the microwaves coming out of the magnetron resonate so well with water molecules that if the microwaves hit you, then you have a chance to damage your cells, and if they hit your brain, they have a chance to damage that as well.
Exactly. So he's just contradicted himself. Because they resonate with water, if they hit your body, they can damage your body. And if they hit your brain, they can damage your brain. Damn straight, kid. Right? That's why what you've just said in the first sentence is bullshit. But look at his safety mechanisms.
Although you can't see it, I'm actually wearing tinfoil underneath my clothing.
So he's wearing tinfoil under his clothing, he said. And that's a good idea because metal deflects, okay, 100%.
This way the microwaves, rather than affecting your cells, are just being absorbed by the tinfoil.
It's not absorbed, my son. It is reflected. So if somebody is standing next to you who's not wearing tinfoil, they will get the full whack dose of this. Okay, that's another thing. So you might cover yourself in tinfoil, but then what you are is a little mirror to these microwaves, and they will bounce off you and hit whoever's standing next to you.
Also, another important thing is that due to this, the microwaves can actually make your eyes go blind. And so although we're going to be putting a waveguide on the microwave later to make sure the microwaves only go in one direction, until I do that while I'm testing, it might be a good idea to take the screen of the microwave and use it to cut out some goggles. And although it looks stupid, it might be a good idea to wear a tinfoil hat.
Exactly, right? It is a good idea. So this is why tinfoil hat, that was a disinformation term by the CIA because they didn't want people to protect themselves.
Absolutely. It's just like conspiracy theory, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. So, this is basically it. This is all you need to know about these microwave weapons. And this is why, Inspector Miskell, one of the things you have to, take away from this at Greater Manchester Police is that putting all this together, we now have the situation that teenagers can take a 20-pound microwave and turn it into a deadly weapon, give themselves cancer, give their neighbors cancer, cause heart attacks, cause brain damage, and do all this through the wall. All right? So this is number one. Number two is criminals can do the same thing. And when you're attacking somebody with a microwave gun, it's not going to leave any bullet holes. Okay? So Inspector Miskell, you can guess that, the scumbags you have roaming around Manchester, sooner or later will be trying this on you. Do you understand? And this is why when you have a high energy physicist who taught physics at Oxford, and she is trying to tell you that microwave crimes have been committed on your watch, in your circuit that you're responsible for, you need to act. We are so way past doing this sort of mental health nonsense. We are way past it, because the truth is, Inspector Miskell, these weapons will be used on you and your men and women. And it will be used to give you cancer. You will be bumped off either because your men are going to just drop dead from a heart attack, get brain damage, or literally get cancer. Okay, so that is why. So the way you act is you actually aggravate this problem. That is the truth. And also the way the Swiss police has acted has aggravated the problem. Just to confess to me on Monday that they don't know what microwave weapons are. Now this is what they are. And I can demonstrate, just to finish off, this is the microwave weapon that looks a bit more professional. This contains an antenna, yes, and a handle. Now I can take off the handle, and then you're just left with this blue dolphin fin that fits into a handbag, Inspector Miskell. And if you put a little frequency generator on here, you can use this as a deadly weapon from a handbag, okay? This thing is being sold for just a couple of €100. Okay, so you can imagine what a shitstorm of a problem we're now facing globally. And the truth is, you have to educate yourself because your superiors won't. And I'll tell you why your superiors won't, because it's also part of the plan, as far as I can ascertain, that you, Inspector Miskell, shall not be drawing on your pension, but you should be, how to put it, you should go before you can draw on your pension, right? That's the truth, because these things cause cancer, terminal cancer, brain damage, heart attacks, strokes. It looks like nothing, no bullet holes, nothing. And the point is that the pension funds have been totally cleared, right, by criminals. There's no money in the pension funds. And they will cover it up by the fact that people will die before they can draw on their pension. That's the big plan, And I can go into the details of how the pension funds have been cleared, but the point is, Inspector Miskell, that the actual financial mechanism by which your pension fund has been totally emptied is, you don't have the time to investigate, but I did, and I just want to finish off saying this, actually, because in case Inspector Miskell doesn't believe me that I'm on his side, I went to the London High Court and I attended the court case of Berezovsky versus Abramovich. That night started being targeted by MI5.
Katherine,
I was studying.
Was that 2011? 2011,
yes, 2011, exactly. So over half a decade ago. And I started being stalked and harassed by MI5. Even though I didn't go for the Russians, I went to study the court system. And that was the longest, running court case that was open to the public. And that's why I went. However, one of the days, it was the 30th of November, to be precise, there was a picket outside. And I think on that day, either the royal courts were closed or they started later. But there was a protest outside by the police officers who were in charge of security at the Rolls building. That is the commercial courts of the Royal Courts of Justice in London. And the guys who were there, I actually bothered to stop and talk to the police officers what the protest was about. And they gave me a leaflet, and it was this. And I have filed it away. It's even marked with 30th of November at the top there. And it says, picket in front of Rolls Building. Now, you can ask your colleagues from London, is this the leaflet that they printed off and handed out? There's no other way, you know, for me to still be in possession of this half a decade later, unless I had thought that this is really important and I had filed it away back in 2011, right? At the time, I didn't even know that MI5 is targeting me already. But this is big because they are going on about the 3 big pension lies. And the police officers from Metropolitan Police London, who were in charge of the security at these at the commercial courts, so they were manning the metal detectors at the entrance, you know, they said millions of workers in the UK are about to take strike action to defend their pensions. PCS members will walk out on 30th November with colleagues from 20 other unions. And they are saying this leaflet in our Fair Pensions for All booklet aim to cut through the lies and give you the facts. And they say lie number 3 is we can't afford your pensions. Yeah, that's here. That's true. It's a lie. It's a lie. A criminal cartel, Inspector Miskell, has done absolutely everything to clear the pension funds in Europe and the US. Okay. And in 2011, I started investigating this. For you. Now, when I turn up on your doorstep in 2016, October 2016, 5 years later, and I'm being attacked, perhaps because of my work investigating this crime against you, the minimum I expect is that you do your job and investigate the crimes committed against me. Do you see, Inspector Miskell? This is how the system hangs together. Because we are both being attacked. You're being attacked through this by financial terrorism. I'm being attacked with directed energy weapon terrorism, you know, and that's why the people on the ground need to help each other. You know, you mustn't listen to your bosses who are telling you that everybody who reports electromagnetic crimes is mentally ill, because I certainly am not. Should you have any more questions, you can also go to our new website. It's jointinvestigation.org, and over the coming months, you will see more and more information being put out about these crimes committed with directed energy weapons, with military biotechnology, and especially military neurotechnology. And I'll tell you one thing, Inspector Miskell, to finish off. You and your men have been fitted with something that's called Tetra. I think it's a communication device. And police officers have been complaining that they experience personality changes. Sounds nuts, doesn't it? But actually what many people don't know is that Tetra is operating in a way using frequencies that can interfere with the human brain.
In a 3-month period, I had 5 lady police officers in this house, all with cancer. I've had a series of calls from officers saying that their personalities have been changed. Whenever I go to a country, and I think the year before, I did 6 countries, I think last year or the year before. The questions always come around to Tetra, and they always come around to aggressive behaviour from the police since they started using Tetra. And I have the government documents that say this can cause neurological damage, this can cause cancer, this can cause aggressive behaviour and personality changes. This was at the beginning of the experiment, and the experiment with Tetra is not due to finish until 2018. So it's an experimental system. The United States one was quite interesting. It was to do with special forces, probably 5 or 6 years ago. They came back from a mission, and of the 6 or 8 gentlemen that were in the special forces, 5 of them, I believe, went home. I think it was 5 or 6 went home and severely beat their wives or children or both, where some of the wives died, Some ended up in hospital, but they were severely beaten. And it was believed that the communications apparatus they were using was entraining the brain and stimulating violence. And this was Fort Bragg. Now, I either had a phone call from Fort Bragg or I had a phone call from the embassy to ask if I knew what frequencies could cause this. Because I ended up talking to each. And I said, don't tell me, I will tell you what frequencies they have been using. Now, the special forces don't just hold them up, they're on permanently. So we're talking massive entrainment, far beyond what the ordinary person would suffer. But it induced such a level of entrainment and violence. So I told them what frequencies I believed they would be using. I sent them documentary evidence, and the whole thing was hushed over, and it was on the news, but then they obviously, I would imagine, changed the frequency.
And it can interfere particularly when you have covertly chips implanted on your head and sometimes even in your brain, nanotechnology in your brain. With that, your officers and you can be remote controlled. And that's what we're investigating, because these are crimes against humanity. And if anything, I ask you to support me and my colleagues of the Joint Investigation Team, because if we don't succeed, this really will be the end of our nations and our democracies as we know it. So thank you, Inspector Miskell. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps. I hope this clarifies who I am. And please, if you could send me the crime report. I can guess that your boss has got in touch with the creative industries in London, and you've got some Hollywood script writers who now have to come up with a story of what exactly happened. But just please, Inspector, write down what happened, because I'm not after you. I'm after the scumbags at MI5. Okay? So get this off your desk and just send me something so that I can go after them. Because you, along with all the other police forces, not just in the UK, also in Germany and in Switzerland, have been told to bounce off all the victims, to cover up the biggest crimes in humanity. That's the truth. And what they're actually doing is that they're taking out researchers, honest researchers like myself. I'm a systems analyst. I studied and I researched finance to uncover these crimes for you. So you have to help me and do what you can to investigate the crimes against me. Thank you for listening. That I was pointing out earlier, they can be hidden in a handbag. People can commit murders without it ever being possible to trace it down with forensics. Sometimes it is possible when the energy shot is very large. For example, one expert who was just about to go and testify at a court case, and he was hit in the heart, and doctors opened him up because it looked like he had a heart attack, and they found that his heart was burned. So when you find stuff like that, it's an indication of directed energy weapons. But otherwise, we're pretty helpless against these things. So the forensic methods that we have now are not good enough anymore. And what we're actually facing now is an absolutely massive national security problem that transcends anything that we've ever seen before.
I just want to share my screen because what I want to point to is an article I wrote last summer. Here we go. So this is about the University of Berkeley, and somebody that we know, stays in family housing on Berkeley, and contacted me to tell me that she was picking up huge levels of radiation in her apartment, and also coming up from the floor, coming from above, and she had meters and had recorded this radiation. And she actually talked to the Berkeley Office of Environment, Health and Safety, and an officer over there said that he wasn't going to come to her apartment and check out the high levels of radiation she was reporting and recording on her meters, because he believed that what she was being exposed to was from law enforcement, government, and satellite technology. which he denied any part of. He said it's not the university's problem. This is coming from satellite tech, from the government. It's coming from law enforcement. The university is not responsible for your health. We're not going to investigate it. And when I tried to contact them, they really did not provide any information on this subject. And they said they pretty much said that the kind of measurements Tracy was doing in her home were not sophisticated enough to prove anything.
But they wouldn't help, but they wouldn't get some, that was to their liking sophisticated enough.
Correct. And that's precisely what was happening. The university refused to step forward and, consult their high energy physics department and bring out their specialized equipment, which Tracy tells me they certainly had. Spectrum analyzers, I think, are fairly common, right, in university labs, physics labs.
Oh, yeah.
So they would not do that. They would not take that step. They would not take her seriously, even though she had recordings of high radiation on the meters that she actually had. So the university refused to pursue the matter, and the environment, health, and safety officer at the university, who also refused to pursue the matter, kind of possibly blurted out without realizing what he was saying. He kind of really confessed that this is law enforcement, government, and satellite technology that is pumping radiation into your apartment.
I have a very brief parallel in that I called the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Forensics Lab. I explained, I used to work for the National Security Agency. I have a meter that's showing me exceptionally high electromagnetic radiation in the Greenwood Hill area of Tallahassee. Could I ask you to come out with some meters of your own and corroborate what I'm getting? And the man said, that sounds like the feds doing what they're doing out there. So I'll get back to you if I can help you. And he never got back to me. But he admitted he knew there was something with electromagnetic radiation going on in the Greenwood Hills area and would do nothing. But I mean, this is basically the federal government has gone to local law enforcement, said, we're going to murder who we want to, and you're going to butt out.
We've now identified how there's a layer above us, certainly, and above the police that is trying to subvert both us, investigators, and also the police. And the question is, who could be running it? And it's the level above. And that's also what the whistleblower Carl Clark wrote to me in a personal email. He is ex-MI6, and he said, well, there's also the Metropolitan Police and also Special Branch and all these places. They are being run by the intelligence agencies. They are being run by MI5 and MI6, So they are the layer above, and they are the people who combine access to the military technology, access to the stalking and harassment networks, these sprawling, operative networks that are used to harass individuals who are trying to go up against crime. By the way, it's also used to harass police officers. There were police officer whistleblowers who have been taken to bits by the police's own surveillance networks. So who is doing it? It is this layer of the intelligence agencies. I have indirect evidence that the police here in Zurich is involved, because when I went to talk to them on Monday, after that, I went in, and it's a very small police station, and someone was standing at reception. So I opened the door and I could hear them talk to reception. So I thought, for their own privacy, I'm going to close the door and I'm going to wait in the hallway. And I was between the reception area with the door closed and the entrance door in a very short corridor. And suddenly, something like a minute and a half after I went in, the door opened and one of my stalkers barged in, saw me stand there, didn't expect me to stand there, and just froze. He just froze and stared at me. If you just walk into a building, into a police station, you see somebody standing next to the door, you just say, hello, and then you walk past. He froze because he had no plan for this situation. It was like end of program. And then he caught himself, and then he didn't say hi because he's that thick, and then just walked past me into the reception area. So then what happened is, as I was standing there, the guy came out, and I thought, oh, let's just go, let this other guy go first. But this other guy wasn't there anymore. So eventually the police officer came out because he saw me through the door, and he said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, sure. So I walked in with him, and I realized this guy had gone because he'd gone behind reception. He was a police officer. And imagine I'm standing there, and that's the classic in kind of like police stalking harassment. You go and talk to somebody, and then when you're at reception, they barge in and they stand behind you, holding their phones or being ridiculous or shooting at you with directed energy weapons. So again, another two people came in, and I was talking to this police officer at reception. And then when I finished and I went outside, guess what? The first guy who had barged in, he was standing on the pavement, staring at me, waiting for me to come out, waiting even after I came out, that I see him, that he's standing there in a really ostentatious, unusual fashion. And then he started typing something into his mobile phone, still looking at me, climbed into a workman's car. So he was an undercover police officer, you know, and then drove off. And I just thought, screw you. If you're filming me, I'm filming you, and your mug's going to appear in a court case, my friend. But that's exactly the sort of harassment that you're put through. So the police, they are either so corrupt or so stupid, they're not getting it. We have only a chance to recover now if we start investigating these things, fighting the corruption, and actually rolling up these cases like we should. We need to revert back to healthy systems. And they are missing these chances. And they are told, oh, yeah, just go and harass this stupid little woman. You know, especially Switzerland, that introduced the right to vote for women at the end of the 70s. You know, I mean, here, I'm just, doesn't matter that I've got a PhD in high energy physics and that I just, you know, taught university students in particle physics and special relativity and nuclear physics. Who cares about that? She's just a little woman, you know. So that's how they treat you. And these morons, they don't get it, that the next time what will happen is that some criminal is just going to fry their bollocks just because they can, and they will have a laugh, you know, and then they'll end up with testicular cancer, and then they won't draw on their pension. And everybody will think, that's done. Ka-ching, everybody wins, you know.
If you've got teenagers who are out there making these videos, and they are making very serious weapons, you know, think about the fact that there are men who went out to Iraq and Afghanistan. They were given these weapons to use, and they weren't dummies. They can come back and reproduce them. All they look at, you know, they basically are taught how to use them, how these things work on principle. And then when they get out of the Army or the Marines, they come back and go, I can make that in my garage, and I can sell that. And then you've got gangs of people who specialize in assassination, silent assassination. Pay us X amount of dollars, and we'll make sure that that your wife is dead, and you can marry who you want and not pay her alimony. We'll make sure that your business partner is dead and you get the entire business, you know. And I too have tried in vain to talk to police and sheriff's department people, you know, Tallahassee specifically, and tell them, look, you know, even if you didn't care about the civilians being covertly murdered, just think about the fact that any of these gangs who have these weapons could come and sit silently outside your police department and kill all of you. Because who needs you? You know, they may say at a certain point, we don't need the police. We don't even need the facade of the police. We're just going to come to the population and say, we run things. You do things our way or we'll kill you. And here we're going to show you, because we're going to take out the entire police department in an hour. You know, we have 5-10 cars sit outside the police department and spray them all with whatever, you know, lily wave or radio frequency or whatever it is, and we'll fry them inside. There'll be 20, 30, 40, 50 dead police inside before they can even get outside the building. I've tried to tell them they are in as much danger as the person who may be targeted for assassination. Because at a certain point in time, these groups are going to say, we have the power. Why do we need to let these people live? We're going to exert the power and show them we run things, because they do run things. You know, the police and the sheriff's department think that they're in control. They're not in control. And I used this example before, that when I was in Tallahassee, Florida, trying to educate the police department and the sheriff's department, I noticed that if and when I went into either building, that I still was hit with directed energy waves. And that meant the people in the building were being hit with directed energy waves. And the only place that I ever got any relief was to go to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and to try to speak to their terrorism unit. When I went to the FDLE, suddenly the directed energy weapons stopped. Cold, dead. Why? My only explanation is that they don't have respect for the police, they don't have respect for the sheriff's deputies, but they're being run by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and that they were not going to shoot their own people. and that the terrorism units at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and all the other similar fusion centers around the country are the terrorists. Their terrorism units are the terrorists. They're the ones running InfraGard. They're the ones arranging for Lockheed Martin and these other people to pay them surreptitiously. They're the ones recruiting. But isn't it interesting they don't give a hoot about the deputies or the police under them? They gladly will hit them with these directed energy weapons. So, you know, that tells people, you know, look, police, detectives, you people are expendable. It's very clear you are expendable. So you better wake up.